Hello and welcome to Lawline. Lawline is an educational television program brought to you by the attorneys at Levin, Papantonio Law Firm. My name is Robert Price. I'm an associate at the Levin, Papantonio Law Firm. And with me is my partner, Kim Lambert.
Hi, Kim Lambert. I'm a partner at Levin Papantonio. Robert and I both have spent a large part of our careers working on dangerous drugs and devices and doing what we can to keep the public informed of what's out there and keep the manufacturers of these devices and drugs accountable for their actions. So hopefully you'll get some good information from our show today. We're going to talk about primarily women's issues, and so Robert's going to go ahead and get started on talking about transmesh. Robert, can you tell our viewers what exactly is transvaginal mesh? And why is this at the forefront? We see it on the TV all the time. We see advertisements. Why is transmesh sort of on the forefront of our television sets right now?
Well, Kim, as you said, there's a good chance that at this point in time you've probably seen some television commercials advertising about transvaginal mesh. And what this is, the story behind this device is that these devices have been on the market for over 10 years. And this is a story where devices have been cleared by the FDA. They haven't been studied or had any tests performed for efficacy or safety. They've simply been cleared by the FDA. So what you have is you have a group of devices that have just sprung out onto the market. And we'll talk a little bit about these individual devices right now.
So I know a lot of the ladies, our viewing audience, would probably understand what transvaginal mesh is, but some of our gentlemen and some of our female viewers may not be aware. But what we're talking about is there are childbirth issues, menopause issues, heavy lifting. There are things that actually loosen the insides of a female, I guess, and for lack of a better way to describe it and to be as blunt as we can, it causes incontinence. It causes things where women are being forced to use diapers, I guess, if you will, in order to maintain that leakage that is caused by just the natural growth and progression of a woman's body. And so innovative, and we did need something like that. The manufacturers started developing these devices to help women cope with those very severe issues, sometimes very severe issues, to where women cannot go out in public, they can't go to dinner. It's something that was affecting millions of women across the country. And so although we are grateful that there are innovators out there making these devices become aware, these particular devices were put on the market without adequate testing, and Robert's going to really get into some details with that, and put out on the market without letting women know what are the actual risks. Every illness, every disease, every injury has severities to it, minimal, the most severe. And that is taken into account by any consumer when they decide on whether or not they want to ingest a drug, have an operation, take a product. It's very important that our consumers understand what are the actual risks. And we, as attorneys at Levin Papantonio, really want to keep these manufacturers, take them to the mat and say, you've got to let us know what are the true risks. And the reason why we are pursuing this particular product is they didn't let us know the risk. And I think you're going to be alarmed at some of the things that Robert's going to have to tell you. What were the patients told when they went in to talk about these surgeries moving forward?
Well, what happens is when a woman goes to their doctor and they've experienced some of these issues, usually after childbirth, it's usually stress urinary incontinence, which is accidental leakage, or it's pelvic organ prolapse. After childbirth, usually there's some loosening of tissue and muscles and things like that. So they go to their doctor, and the doctor proposes some surgical solutions. So if you could pull up, I have slide B. Slide B shows you one of the surgical solutions. This is a pelvic organ prolapse mesh. And what this is, as you can see from the graph, is that it is a palm-sized piece of mesh with arms attached to it. And if you could pull up slide C will show you what it looks like inside the female body. You see the piece of mesh is up against the bladder and the vaginal cavity. Now, that is one of the surgical solutions for pelvic organ prolapse, but there are other surgical solutions that are less invasive and don't involve the placement of mesh. Now, what happened with this situation is that back in the 90s, manufacturers started putting out these mesh devices, and they kept building upon themselves over and over and over, almost in what was an experimental medicine design. And now you have these pelvic organ prolapse kits that are out there, these large pieces of mesh. They get implanted, and then they cause terrible problems to women after they get implanted. And sometimes these devices are put out so aggressively that many women didn't really need them. They could have had other surgical solutions proposed.
Right.